guys, what's up? It's your girl Camry and you're watching Camry Music TV, and this is the second to last official video of 2020. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe down below to my channel. We are about to do a 2020 year in review. Okay, so comment down below anything that I missed, anything, thoughts or feelings about what we talk about, and make sure you tune in tomorrow to the makeup challenge with Paige, palettes by Paige. All right, let's get into this thing, okay? So it's not gonna be real official. I know last year we had a whole reel, we had all kind of things going on. Today I just kind of want to talk through some things because a lot of this year we don't even really want to remember. We don't even really want to reflect back because we're still going through it. We're still going through this pandemic. So the number one thing, I'm gonna try to keep it down to 10 things of 2020 because 20 was gonna be too expensive. 15 is like 10 things, top 10 things of 2020. Okay, so the very first thing that just kind of shook our world was the passing of Kobe Bryant and Gianna Bryant and the 7 other people in this helicopter. You guys know that that was in January. It was a tragic loss because Kobe Bryant always took this helicopter to the stadium, you know, from his place to avoid LA traffic. And you know, his daughter always rode with him, and his family's always rode with him. On this particular day, there was it was really bad to see, and the pilot, you know, continued to fly anyway, and they succumbed to, you know, it was fatal, right? The crash was fatal. And so it was a hard loss for the community, for the culture, but even harder to see, you know, Vanessa, who had just had a baby with him, you know, their fourth, either their third or fourth girl. I think the third or fourth girl, right? And so he had retired. You know, his daughter Gianna was like following in his footsteps with the basketball, and yeah, this crash happened and it just shocked the world. Still recovering from this, hasn't even been a year. And just to see now, you know, his mother-in-law, Vanessa's mom, trying to battle it out in court for money is just really sad. She's had friends, you know, Lala, Sierra, Kim, you know, different people come by, and I'm sure she has other friends who aren't in the media. They've come by to console her in this time, but it's just gonna be imperative for her to always have that closeness and always have people that she can go to, because it was just hard. Like, it was a hard loss, and then it was public on top of that. So the second thing that went down this year that I'm gonna rate was pretty doggone huge was the pandemic. Okay, if it wasn't, we had 2 pandemics, right? I'm gonna do one pandemic as number 2 and the second one as number 3. But the next thing was coronavirus. Okay, coronavirus came around this time of 2019, and you know, was occurring in China, and we saw kind of things going on with them, right? And then it came onto the US, and the government kind of kept it hush hush. They didn't really move on it right away, and it started to get out of control. And by March, it had hit the US, and people started dying, and they started to shut things down in a way that we had never seen, right? We had been through a whole lot of other pandemics. Not really pandemics, just like these viruses that spread, not to this degree, right? But when they shut down New York, I'm talking about public transportation wasn't moving. Like, we were just at home every single day. Kids were not in school. Now, they were going into spring break, and they did not have a cure. They weren't really on the whole like wear a mask thing yet. They was just like, stay home order, do not go out, do not go anywhere. The streets was quiet for like a month or 2, right? And then we started moving into the summer, and people was getting tired, and they were like, no, we got to get outside. So the mask order was a thing, and curfews were a thing, and And you saw people like flying because flights were cheap, and then virtual learning was a thing, and you saw all the holes that had with technology, and parents having to like homeschool their kids, and teachers having to go the extra mile with teaching online. Some teachers are still teaching online to this day. You know, a lot of us moved to in person. The stores were out of Clorox wipes, they were out of Lysol, they were out of bleach, they were out of toilet paper. Remember that? Out of toilet paper. I remember being in the store and seeing everybody grabbing toilet paper. I had just bought a huge pack, so I was good, but I remember thinking it was really weird that people was grabbing all this toilet paper. And I remember going to the store with my sister, and I was like, do we need to be getting like beans, tuna, like non-perishables, because is electricity gonna go out? Like, what is happening? Gas was like $1.15, $1.20. Like, things were just like, we didn't know if the world was gonna end, but it was just really, really weird. Really, really weird. Really weird, to say the least. And I think my camera's crooked, but oh well, we rocking with it. So all that went on this year, and I feel like I'm still leaving things out because that melded into the protest and the fight for police brutality and defunding the police. We know that police have had a long history of profiling people of color, especially black men. But in the past years, you know, with Trayvon Martin and Sandra Bland and Tamir Rice and all these different people, we've seen an increase in just taking the lives of people of color just because of what we look like. Always thinking that we're up to something, always thinking that there is got to be a reason why we were there, right? And so this year we witnessed Ahmaud Arbery, you know, running and getting shot down in the middle of the street by these men who hunted him down. We witnessed Breonna Taylor, who was sleeping in her home, and police just running up in her home you know, shooting, you know, no knock order, this whole thing. They're still fighting that. That still has not been put to rest. It still has not, justice has still not been served, right? And then George Floyd. So really, George Floyd's murder was the one that kicked everything off because, you know, Breonna Taylor was a black woman. So it took lots of black women in media, celebrities, lots of people to get the Breonna Taylor case the type of attention that it needed. Unfortunately, because she's a black woman and we just don't get that type of attention. So George Floyd, you know, we saw this cop taking a knee on his neck, and he was saying that he couldn't breathe, and he was calling for his mom, and he died, right? And so those cops, you know, that cop, I believe, you know, they were arrested, they were fired, all these different things, but it's like nothing. This was the first time where like the country started to see like, oh yeah, like we do have a real problem. We started to dive into like the makings and the beginnings of all of this, where America even came from, like what it's founded on, how it's this land that was stolen, and how, you know, white culture, is that even a thing? Like all these things came into fruition, and they started anti-racism campaigns in different companies, different jobs started to have different talks and form different groups to discuss like how black people felt. And, you know, it was crazy for me because I was like, you know, as a black person, we just kind of understand. We just know like it is what it is. So to be asked about, you know, how it can be changed or how we feel about it, it's like you first have to understand that, is this like genuine? Like you really want to change it? And then understand like this has been it for so long. Let me just try to figure out where we can even start to begin to change. You know, there were so many things. It definitely took the country by storm. You saw Black Lives Matter everywhere. It was finally starting to make sense to those who it didn't make sense to before. And even if you're still confused about it now, Black Lives Matter just means that the country has made it a point to show that black lives don't matter, okay? We know that all people's lives matter, but in this country, it has been shown time and time again that all of our lives don't matter. So in this case, when Black lives keep being targeted and murdered over and over, we have to take a stand and say that Black lives matter. They gotta matter, okay? So if you didn't understand that breakdown, and you need to tell somebody that, there it is, okay? So all these things were happening. Protests were breaking out in all these different places. People were still wearing their masks, but it was still like, okay, we're just tired. We're just tired at this point. Like, I'm wearing my mask, you know, like you said, but I'm gonna get out here and protest. I'm gonna get out here and get myself heard. So there was protests for George Floyd, there was protests for Breonna Taylor, there was protests for Ahmaud Arbery, there was protests for just change, period. And I do believe that we made a lot of strides, but you saw companies start to get into trouble. You saw Starbucks, you know, with them not wanting people to wear BLM. You saw different companies doing different things to, you know, make their voice heard. And we noticed those companies who did not have much to say. And we made adjustments where adjustments needed to be made. So I do believe 2020 definitely is a huge year going down in the history books, with those two pandemics sitting at numbers 2 and 3 for this year. Number 4, Versus was born. Okay, Versus TV is something that was developed, you know, because of the pandemic. We're all at home, unable to go to concerts, tours, shows, anything like that we were unable to go to. Was it Timbaland and Swiss Beats? They got together, and you know, first it was just like producers, and they were kind of battling with their hits. And so we saw Lil Jon and who did Lil Jon go up against? I can't even remember. There were some early people, right? They went back and forth, and The Dream was in there. Different people was in there, I believe. Okay, but then it started to pick up steam. They started noticing, like, okay, a lot of people are watching this. A lot of different people are commenting. We had Babyface and Teddy Riley. We had all these different, like, big people, right, going back and forth. And so then it started to become like a bi-monthly thing that everybody could sit down together with their family and have drinks and food and get in those comments and get to laughing. And we saw people like Gladys and Patty, and we saw Brandy and Monica, which we thought would never happen. We saw Snoop and DMX, and we saw there was just so many different people, and so many people we're still waiting on. But all these different people were doing these matchups. We saw Fab and Jadakiss, I think. We saw different people, okay? And we're still waiting for others. We're still waiting for Chris Brown, who refuses to do it. We're still waiting for Usher, you know. So a lot of people feel like the only person that could measure up to like an Usher would probably be an R. Kelly, but we ain't trying to hear him right now, right? But that was probably one of the best things that came out of this year. Now, you know, they had to find a way to make money. As time went on, they got with Apple TV, and then they Ciroc got involved. You know, Diddy got involved. Were sponsored by Ciroc. You know, you had Jill and Erica doing it at the house. There were a lot of like technical difficulties, so then they were able to go to studios, and they were able to check everyone's temperature and have everyone do a COVID test to get everyone in the same room. They had Gucci and Jeezy, you know. And so now it's like a whole production, and you can go to Spotify or Apple Music and get the playlist and all of these different things, right? So that is our number 4 spot. Number 5, Chadwick Boseman passing away. Okay, Chadwick Boseman passed away over the summer, I think the later part of the summer, and it took a lot of us by shock because there was a picture that came out of him a couple years back, and people were, you know, kind of making fun because he did look, you know, sick. And it came out that he had cancer since 2016. You know, that's before, I was about to say Wakanda Forever, before Black Panther was even filmed. So he was sick while he was filming for that. He was sick. He was known for a lot of these biopics, right? He did Jackie, he did Marshall, he did all these different movies, and he was sick that whole entire time fighting this battle of cancer. Chadwick Boseman was a very hard loss because he was very humble actor, very talented, very soft-spoken, but very direct, and I think he had children. I'm not sure. I know he had a wife, and so it's just still very hard for me to believe that we lost Chadwick Boseman and Kobe Bryant in the same year. I know that they don't have anything to do with each other, except for the purple, you know, y'all kind of are tying in the same theme, but it's just like, in my mind, Kobe Bryant was a person that just, I kind of grew up on him, right? I just moved the camera. In my mind, Kobe Bryant was a person that, like, I kind of grew up on him. He was like, just always seemed like this celebrity. Like, I didn't know him, but he just was always a celebrity, like, my whole life, right? And then Chadwick Boseman was a person that you could just see, even in his acting, like how genuine he really was. So to see these horrible things happen to these people, it was just like, dang. And then these pandemics on top, it was just rough. So Chadwick Boseman, Kobe Bryant definitely are gonna be missed, and we're praying for their family. Was Tori and Meg. The Tori and Meg saga. Okay, we were trying to find out who shot ya, and that is still going on. In the grand scheme of things, of like things that are important, I don't want you guys to think that this list is like the top 10 important things of 2020. It's just a top 10 things that like really got us talking, or like took over the media in 2020. You know, Meg Thee Stallion had been hanging out with Kylie and hanging out with Tori, and you know, we knew her for like always pouring this Douce bottle from celebrity to celebrity and letting people drive the boat, right? And she's young, so that's kind of, you know, what younger people do. They drink, they party, they twerk type of thing. And so Tory Lanez, everybody had their quarantine thing. Tory Lanez had this quarantine radio thing. And I remember thinking like, Tory Lanez is like it right now. He's doing these remakes of these songs, but I remember giving him props because it was like, you're not just remaking the song, you're putting like a good spin on it, and you have the original artist on the new track. So I had given him props. I was like, Tory Lanez, you are right with me, right? And what happened was, he actually was, you know, he was seen in her live. They was in the pool. They was leaving this party. It's this helicopter footage of Meg Thee Stallion limping out of this car. You can see like liquid from her foot. She ends up lying about it first, saying like she stepped in some glass. And then maybe something went down with the best friend and Tori. And so she kept coming out all these different times, basically saying, like, alluding to like that he shot her. And, you know, dropped these songs. It had the live where she just finally told it all and broke down. It was just like a huge thing. And now there's like a huge divide, because there's a lot of people who just don't like Meg because they're like, they feel like she lied on this man. Then you have the other people who are like, no, like she was trying to protect him. But what it sparked in the Black community was this conversation of protect Black women, and how we just don't be doing that. Now that was already going on with Breonna Taylor. You know how most people didn't even think about Breonna Taylor's case being, you know, a big deal, or think about advocating for it. Most people were just like George Floyd. And you know, probably because we had a visual for that as well. But at the same time, it was like Black women have been saying for a long time, we are at the bottom of the totem pole every time. And that's what intersectionality is, right? So, you know, we have been talking about all that. And so when this happened, you quickly saw the hoteps. You quickly saw the people in the Black community who were like, you know, she put herself here because of whatever, and you know, she didn't come out with the truth, so it's this, so it's that. And so it was all this back and forth, and it's still going on. And whether you believe him or her, I think we all can agree that he did not come out right away to denounce her when she was talking. So there has to be some truth in what she's saying. Kelsey ended up, you know, no longer being a best friend. It was just all this stuff going on. And at 24, like, life gets messy. So for it to be on this grand scale and you not to have your mother or grandmother to kind of offset all of that, I feel for her, okay? So Tory Lanez is facing felony charges. So we're gonna see how all this goes down. A lot of that dovetailed into a lot of other drama, but it did help the success of my number 6 spot, WAP. Okay, WAP took over the internet and went, I don't even know if it did, but I'm gonna say in my mind triple platinum. Cardi B featuring Meg Thee Stallion, you know, they had the video, they were dressed alike with the updos, and you know, just the vulgarity of the song really got a lot of these men stirred up. You know, Snoop Dogg most recently was all stirred up over it, even though his songs are way worse. Every time I listen to Ain't No Fun, I just be like, he really started the song like this. Okay, so you know, you quickly saw the double standard in all. I mean, if 2020 didn't bring anything else, it brought a wokeness. Okay, a quick and succinct wokeness where you was like, you know what? There are double standards. You know what? We do not protect black women. You know what? We do have an alarming high rate of killing black men. Yes, and we are gonna do something about it. So all that was definitely brought into fruition. That leads me into number 7, Terry Crews. Terry Crews, you all know him from White Chicks, My Wife and Kids, Norbit. He's like this super strong buff dude, right? But he's also very religious and very soft-spoken. He has this wife, I believe, who's a pastor or evangelist or whatever, but we've seen them on Black Love, right? And, you know, Terry Crews was somebody that we pretty much loved and have a reason not to like him. But he had allegations come out. Well, when all the Me Too stuff was going on, he was one of the only men that spoke up and said, you know, that it too had happened to him with Hollywood, and he felt like he couldn't speak up because of his job. I think he did end up speaking up, you know, like stopping it from happening. But yeah, so all that had went down. And remember, Gabrielle Union had left America's Got Talent. Is it America's Got Talent? I hope it's America's Got Talent. But anyway, she had spoke up about, you know, some things that were unfair in her workplace that a lot of us black women have to deal with. Things with hair, having your natural hair, you know, them saying that your styles are too ethnic or too cultured or too black, or, you know, you can't express yourself a type of way because it's considered, you know, you're an angry black woman, like all these different things. And basically Terry Crews had came out and basically said that he didn't experience any of those things that she had gone through, and instead of supporting her or protecting black women, and not protecting black women does not mean standing up and stepping up in front of them like we can't fight our own battles. It just means like standing with us and like supporting us. And so when he said that, when he did that, it was like, oh, like you're really doing this. And you know, so then Gabrielle Union quickly had to get him together on Twitter. I believe Dwayne Wade hopped in it. And then he just kept going. He still keeps going. Terry Crews keeps coming out with things where he's, you know, Black Lives Matter doesn't mean Black Lives Better. And, you know, you can tell that he's walking this line and he's straddling the fence of like his white, you know, crowd or white audience and, you know, his people, his black audience. And it's like, you shouldn't have to do that, because wanting equal rights isn't wrong, and it shouldn't upset your white audience unless they feel like we shouldn't have equal rights. So Terry Crews caused quite a stir, and he is still doing it. Number 8, Black is King dropped, and it was everything I needed and more during this pandemic. It was the visual album of The Gift. Beyonce dropped on Disney Plus. And it was basically the black version of Lion King, okay? It had all of the different things that you wanted to see. It had all the different colors and features and hair and beauty. Brown skinned girl had all the different features that you could think of. The choreography was amazing. It just felt good, especially during this pandemic. Child, that's a word that we can leave in 2020, but I know we're not. It just felt good to be able to see these different things. It felt good to see my girl like embracing her culture and embracing like her roots, because we know that she's not African, right? Like she has African heritage in her roots, but it felt good to see her like pulling in these African artists. And I know a lot of people had a problem, like y'all always do, but that felt good to see. It felt good to see a black version of Lion King, because even though Lion King was based out of Africa, it never had like black rhetoric or like black framing. in all this time that it's been, you know, famous or out. Okay, so that came out, still riding on a high from that. In the 9th spot, as we're dwindling down on this list, was the stimulus checks. Okay, this is the first time in my adult life that I can remember getting a $1,200 check for, you know, sitting at home, or basically the government's mistake. So yeah, that was a thing, and we're actually waiting on our second round of stimulus checks. And while it wasn't much, I know it definitely don't cover my rent. It wasn't much. It definitely was cool to have something to help out, right? I know that a lot of people didn't get it. A lot of people got more. Some people got half. But to get some money while we're sitting at home and the world is falling apart was definitely a cool thing, and definitely like the least they could do. Definitely the least they can do. You guys know the number 10 spot for me was finally getting that man out of that office and voting in someone who can bring about some change, and voting in the first female Black vice president. All right, so I know that I missed some things. I know that Boosie cut up and he lost his Instagram account. I know a lot of things went down. I know that we didn't get a lot of our shows, like Pose and Real Housewives of Atlanta finally came back, but you know, Insecure had went off, but we didn't get Queen Sugar, and Greenleaf went off, and you know, a lot of things we missed. Movies turned into just going straight to streaming instead of seeing them in the theaters, and you know, grocery pickups instead of going in the store, and having certain times that you can shop, and a lot of curbside. Like, the world just changed in 2020. Am I glad that 2020 is over? Heck yes. Do I feel like 2020 is really over? Heck no, because we're still dealing with this pandemic. But I'm a person, and if you're a person that deals with depression, or a person that, you know, different things affect you mentally and emotionally, like really tough, it's a good idea to do some framing, okay? I know that technically a lot of things won't change, but if I don't set some framing and set some boundaries to be like, 2020 is over, we're moving to 2021, and even though we're in a pandemic and a lot of these days are rolling over into the next, and I haven't seen my family in so long, and different things that occur every year to let me know, like, okay, things are gonna be okay, and to give me some type of release, we haven't been able to do. Okay, I have to frame my mind so that I know January starting, a new year starting, new goals, out with the old. Okay, take your Christmas tree down, do different things. You have to do these type of things because the world is crazy, and it's not, you gotta be the mover, you gotta do the thing. So I'm still gonna make my Black Eyed Peas, I'm gonna take all my Christmas decorations down, I'm still gonna get rid of old clothes and different things and go out with the old and with the new. And I may not have as many fitness goals, you know, because the gyms are still topsy-turvy type of thing. But yeah, although the world has changed, we got to be resilient and persevere and move with it. And that's all I got for 2020. That's all I got. That's all I got. Away with you. Y'all leave down in the comments anything that I missed out and your thoughts on the top 10 things of this year. I'm Kim Ray. This is Kim Ray Music TV, and I'll see you guys next time.